I must say I don't believe in the individual entrepreneur. I believe more in entrepreneurial teams. If you think of it, nothing of importance, of real significance in human history has been achieved by that single heroic figure. It's almost always it has been achieved by teams, by entrepreneurial teams, I would rather say exceptional teams. I believe, though, in leaders of those exceptional teams. And the question is, what do leaders need to do in order to build up these exceptional teams? I bring you our Everest team of 1992. We wanted to climb one of the most difficult routes up Mount Everest in the Kangchen face on the Tibetan side. And this is the team I selected. And I selected it because of its technical abilities. They were competent climbers. They would know how to rock climb. They would know how to ice climb. They would know everything about ropes, about avalanches. They were very good climbers. They were tough. They would, support extreme conditions. They were, as I say, good climbers. And that's what I selected them for. And it worked. Happily, after 40 days on the mountain, we finally reached the summit, 3 of us. And I had this, what I thought at the time was this great idea of having a picture of myself with my family. That's my wife and 2 daughters. And it looks as a great idea, but when we came back from that expedition, my wife and I decided to have another girl. Elisa was born. And when she was about 4 or 5 years of age, she realized she hadn't been at the top of Mount Everest. And so she started complaining. And she complained for nearly 15 years. And so, that's what loving fathers do. They go and climb Everest again. So I did this on May 18th, just a few months ago, and took the definite picture with all the family on the summit of Mount Everest. So there we are. But the important thing about that original expedition is that when I came back, I realized that these guys were more than just climbers. They had other skills that I wasn't able to define, but they could confront their differences face to face. They could work together. They could rotate leadership. Sometimes I was supposed to be the leader of the expedition. I was resting down at base camp while they were opening the route up in Camp 3. So they had these other skills that were very important. Now, our second element is, I bring you this picture. This is Amada Blam, the sacred peak of the Sherpas in Nepal. And we've taken about 2 years to get the permit from the Nepalese government to climb this peak, because we wanted to do a joint expedition with our friend, the Sherpas. And everything finally was set up, all the gear, everything was ready. And just 10 days before we were leaving Santiago in Chile, we had this terrible disaster, this huge earthquake struck our country. And we couldn't. It was so much things that needed to be done in Chile. There was so much disaster that we had to stay behind. And literally, rather than climbing, we put everything of our expedition, our tents, our cooking stoves, our fuel, our food, ropes and everything, put them on a couple of pickup trucks and drove down all the way to where the most affected areas were in Chile, about 600 miles south of Santiago. And so we start working on the emergencies. That's what we know to do. We know how to build tents and cook pasta very quickly. That's, we're experts in it. And so we start helping, but then we stay behind. We were able to camp with these families and stay behind and started a relation of caring. And finally, when everything was ready, we said, okay, we're leaving now, but they say, no, you can't leave. You've been very good friends to us. You've been very caring with us. So we stay a little bit longer. And when the emergency shelters arrived, we helped them put them up. And then we said we're leaving, and Valentina, the leader of the group, said, you're not going, you're staying with us because you're very important for us. We ended up staying for a full year and a half, 18 months. And by the end of it, I cannot say that the families had already survived and were, ready, but they were on their feet, back on their feet, to build their own future. It was a very, very successful program. Literally only just before coming here, I was invited to the ceremony in which they received their definite houses. So it was a very, very successful program called Acompañar, or Accompany program. By the way, Rolex helped us with that very kindly. So this is my summary of things that you need to address if you want to put an exceptional team. You need to have a sense of purpose, you need to have members with the interlocking skills, and you need to make a conscious decision of being generous. Those exceptional teams might sometimes help you get exceptional results. But in my case, exceptional teams save lives. If it weren't for this exceptional team, I might not be here telling you these stories. Thank you very much.